Terminal 3, December 14th, 2021. Officials, friends, and family of Harry Reid gather for what would be his final local tribute. America's 8th busiest airport will now be called Harry Reid International. Reid's fragile health kept him home. Rory Reid, his son, spoke for the family.
So thank you very much for this honor. 1,000 times thank you.
12 days earlier, Harry Reid turned 82. 3 years before that, he would be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, an illness with no good outcome. Harry Mason Reid was born December 2nd, 1939, in Searchlight, Nevada. His father was a miner. His mother did laundry. The Reids were poor.
My dad was born in a 2-room shack in a lonely spot in the southern Nevada desert. All he had was a work ethic and a small circle of people that loved him.
From that postage stamp of a town, through grit and timing and his own determination, Harry Reid would propel himself into the highest ranks of American government. Journalist John Ralston is writing a Reid biography.
Harry Reid is arguably the most influential and important elected official in the history of the state, and certainly one of the more consequential ones in the national political sphere of the last quarter century.
For Reid, politics began in the late 60s in the Nevada Assembly. He would serve with fellow Democrat Richard Bryan, who himself would become Attorney General, Governor, and Senator.
We served together in the 1969 session, and we were two young men in a hurry. And that was obvious.
Reid's political trajectory hit a speed bump after serving as Democrat Mike O'Callahan's lieutenant governor in the early 70s. In 1974, Reid lost the Senate race to Paul Laxalt. In 1975, he lost a race for Las Vegas mayor to Bill Brer. It was his friend and mentor, O'Callahan, who rescued Reid and placed him as chair of the Nevada Gaming Commission. Suddenly, it would be Reid's job to rein in the mob. At one point, they tried to blow up the Reid family. His wife Landra found a bomb in the family car. Michael Green teaches history at UNLV.
I would joke about this and his dealings with the mob in talking about him in class and say, after the mob's tried to kill you, Mitch McConnell doesn't scare you quite so much.
It would still be years before Reid would face off against the steely Republican from Kentucky. Reid's first stop in Washington was the House, where he served for 4 years. His promotion to the Senate came in 1986, when he beat Republican Jim Santini. Republican Sig Rogich worked on the Santini campaign and the Laxalt campaign that beat Reid 12 years earlier. The two became close friends.
I'm a Republican, but I have to say, I don't think anyone has been more impactful for the state of Nevada in its history. I can't think of anyone who accomplished more for the state than Harry Reid did.
In the Senate, Reid sat on the Appropriations Committee, funneling money back to his home state. Reid was effective, Richard Bryan says. The two served together in the U.S. Senate for 11 years.
He has a drive, a focus, like no one else I've ever known. It's 24/7. He's always thinking strategically what the next step is.
Reid carved out an environmental legacy, protecting more than 5 million acres of Nevada land. He stalled the proposed nuclear waste dump at Yucca Mountain. He also revived the state Democratic Party, bringing a Democratic presidential caucus to Nevada, putting the state on the presidential map. And in the 2000s, became the face of the Democratic Party in the U.S. Senate, when he ascended to majority and later minority leader. A new president's legacy rested on Reid's shoulders. He guided recovery from the recession and Obamacare through the Senate.
At a vital and important time, you don't have to agree with the accomplishments, but Barack Obama's agenda does not pass at all, I think, without Reid. I think he was that important.
Reid would win re-election in 1992, 98, 2004, and 2010. The election of 2016 was looming until January 2015. An accident with a piece of exercise equipment left Reid seriously injured and forced him to reevaluate his life. Nevada politics changed in the process.
And as a result of that, I'm not going to run for re-election.
Reid would spend the remaining time in Washington leading the Democratic Senate minority. When he left office on January 3, 2017, he was the longest-serving U.S. Senator in Nevada history. Democrats revered him. Many Republicans reviled him.
I think Reid earned a lot of Republican enmity by being part of a time where the two parties have increasingly diverged.
His style, he would make statements sometimes that were not particularly helpful to him or to his overall reputation.
As it turns out, I got more opponents than I bargained for. There's Paul Laxalt, Chick Heck, Barbara Vukanovic, Frank Fahrenkopf, and the Reagan administration.
He's ruthless and he takes no prisoners, and he says things that he probably shouldn't have said. He called the president of the United States a loser at one point. He called the head of the Federal Reserve a hack.
That was Reid. And this was Reid, too. On the phone, no goodbyes, just a click.
That was his style.
Yeah.
That was his style. I mean, all of a sudden, the line would go quiet, and that was the indication the conversation was over. But that was universal. I mean, I never construed it as disrespectful or antagonistic. That was Harry Reid.
Considered cold and calculating by his opponents, he was considered loyal and loving by his family and friends. Sig Rogich's friendship lasted for decades.
And over time, I just grew to love him. You know, he's a special guy, and he did special things for the state, and we don't agree on much politically, all things considered. You know, when he's gone, I'm going to miss him.
Reid leaves behind his wife of 62 years. He had 5 children, 4 sons and a daughter. And he leaves behind a state upon which his legacy is now etched into Nevada history.
Tonight, Nevada and his friends reacting with heartbreak to the news of his passing. Our Lauren Clark here in studio with how they are being comforted with his memories.
Well, Marie, as you can see, the statements are just pouring in. Senators, representatives, the governor, even the president of the United States sharing their sorrow and memories of Nevada's longest-serving senator, remembering him as a tough politician, loving family man who made a permanent mark on our state.
It's very sad, very sad.
Across Las Vegas.
Sad. It really is.
People remembering a man.
He's done a lot, so it's unfortunate.
Who is an unmistakable part of Nevada history.
I'm officially declaring my candidacy for the United States Senate.
Yeah, was a senator for a long time, and he contributed quite a bit to the city.
For many, Harry Reid was a tough politician. But for former Nevada Congresswoman Shelley Berkeley.
I loved him, and he was really quite remarkable.
She met him when she was in high school, walking precincts for his Nevada State Assembly candidacy.
I have known Harry Reid since I was 17 years old. He has been a large part of my life as a mentor, as a role model, as a friend, and ultimately as a colleague.
A professional relationship that turned into a personal friendship, including dinner parties at her home.
The last time he was at my home, he took a picture with my new grandson, Avi, and what made that so special is I have a picture of Max, my son Max, Avi's father, at the same age, 8 months old, on Harry Reid's lap.
A man who she calls the ultimate public servant.
There are hundreds of thousands of Nevadans and people, millions of people across this country whose lives were improved by this man, and they never knew him.
A man who never wavered in his love for his family and his state.
And one of the things I loved most about him was his relationship with Landra. That is a true love story. And that is also something that something to be admired. His love of his wife, his children, his grandchildren, his family, and the people of the state of Nevada.
And Landra Reid also shared several statements on the passing of her husband of 62 years. She said, quote, "We are so proud of the legacy he leaves behind, both on the national stage and his beloved Nevada." Harry was deeply touched to see his decades of service to Nevada honored in recent weeks the renaming of Las Vegas Airport in his honor. And Marie, we also have so many statements just continuing to pour in into our newsroom. We have a full list of that on our website, news3lv.com, as we just continue to cover his story.
Yeah, really nice to hear Shelley Berkeley just reiterating how he has literally touched generations. All right, Lauren, thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Reid Cowan from News 3 Las Vegas. We want to thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. Remember, you can always see more of our videos by clicking on the video links. And also don't forget to click that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of our YouTube updates. Thanks for watching.